It's your home for the first reaction and analysis after the Dogs play. This is DawgNation Postgame, brought to you by Cercheros, Georgia Spa Company, Circle K, and the UGA Bookstore. Now here's your host, Brandon Adams.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. We are on the field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where for the second straight year, the Georgia Bulldogs are the reigning SEC champions. We got Georgia fans all over the place right now. Let me ask you this. You guys glad to be the SEC champions right now? The celebration and the trophy ceremony is just concluded behind us. Georgia has gotten a win 28-7 over the Alabama Crimson Tide. And listen, we're going to talk about this so many different ways tonight about how it happened, what it means, what it's all about. But let me just say it this way. When you watch the way this team has grown and developed over the course of the season, Alabama getting anything that it wanted on third down in this matchup in September, able to do nothing against Georgia on third down tonight. And remember what Kirby Smart said before this season began. Our goal is we want to run the ball, we want to stop the run. Well, Georgia was well in excess of 100 yards rushing tonight, holding Alabama to negative yards rushing, -3, I believe it was, negative yards rushing here tonight. That's the story for Georgia, how it's able to get this done, what it's all about. And for a defense that we've watched some of these guys grow up in front of us. Quintavious Johnson, Ellis Robinson, guys who've really become, Gabe Harris, guys who've really become dominant players in recent weeks after, go back to the beginning of the season, I don't know that we necessarily knew exactly what Georgia had there. But man, this defense has become something special. And it was as good as it's ever been tonight against Alabama. And I'll say this real quick, and then we'll dive in to your calls and hear from all of our special guests tonight and everything else too. We have been doing this DawgNation post-game call-in show for a very long time. This is our 10th anniversary of DawgNation, and I'll run through it quick. It was the national championship game at the conclusion of the 2017 season. It was the SEC championship in the 2018 season. It was the SEC championship in the 2021 season. It was the SEC championship in the 2023 season. Just those games alone in this building. So when you talk about exercising those demons, when you talk about erasing that history and writing your own chapter, a much better chapter, you better believe here in Atlanta tonight, this celebration is going to be ongoing. I thought the Georgia fans in the building tonight were amazing. Mercedes-Benz Stadium was rocking. This felt like a big-time football game. I thought the Georgia crowd helped propel that victory. And now that Georgia has gotten it, you better believe, and it's still here. I mean, you've got the entirety of the Red Coat Band behind me. Most of the Georgia players have made their way back to the locker room, the confetti, and we've gotten very used to doing shows ankle deep in confetti. This is another one of those. 28-7, Georgia is the SEC champion. We're thrilled about that tonight and happy to talk to you all about it. All right, we'll dive in here and get going. We'll get your phone calls, 678-645-DAWG. We got some Georgia fans that want to speak to us. I don't quite know if I can reach the microphone that far to do it, but 678-645-DAWG. You can join us. You can also be a part of this by clicking the link on Zoom, be a part of the show. We want to hear from you. We want to talk about this big win. And, man, I'm so happy to have a guy who has an SEC championship ring of his own, so he knows what this is all about. Rodrigo Blankenship, who's been so great to join us on our DawgNation post-game call-in show this year. Rodrigo, how about them Dogs? How about 28-7 over Alabama? How about the performance by this defense shutting out Alabama through three quarters of this game? It was a stout performance. I think it was a statement performance. Georgia looks like right now, obviously the class of the SEC and ready to make a deep run in this playoff. What did you think tonight about what you saw?
Yeah, let's start off with another how about them Dogs. This was an incredible performance to see from our Georgia Bulldogs in this SEC championship game. Man, just so much great stuff that we saw from this team today. This is the team that we were hoping we would see throughout the course of the season, and we started to see this version of this team back in the Mississippi State game, once again with the Texas game. We lost it a little bit against Georgia Tech, but they were back tonight, firing on all cylinders. The defense was lights out today. Offense did what they needed to do. So there was just so much good stuff that I saw from this Georgia team that it really encourages me as we get ready for the playoffs. And now we're finally going to get the break that we've all been hoping this team could get, so we can get some of our key guys some rest, give them a little breather, get some of our guys back to full health, and really begin to make a deep playoff run. And I really expect to see this team do some really big things as we get into the college football playoff in a few weeks. So what a great performance, and just so much great stuff to talk about tonight.
I agree with you, Rodrigo. This team needs a break. At this point, we may all need a break. It's been quite a season, an arduous journey, but after a little bit of rest and relaxation for these Georgia players, some recuperation, we'll all be saying let's let bon temps roule, because this team is heading to New Orleans, because you cannot spell sugar without UGA. Georgia on its way back to the Sugar Bowl as the SEC champions, and what could be quite a run through the college football playoff. Rodrigo, we'll hear plenty more from you tonight over the course of our time, and we want to hear from Georgia fans as well. So if you want to be with us, give us a call, 678-645-DAWG. That's 678-645-DAWG. Click the link on any of our comments sections, our chats, and you can be in this show here tonight as we talk about this big Georgia win. Christopher, you're in Savannah. You're first up tonight on the DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show. Christopher, how about them Dogs? And how about this amazing Georgia win here tonight?
BA, how about those Dogs, brother? This is unbelievable.
How about them?
I cannot even believe this. Like, we didn't beat Bama. We destroyed Bama. And this just makes it feel like the curse, the monkeys off the back. The only points they got is with 2 Barbra Streisand calls to keep that drive alive. It was ridiculous. That ball was it doesn't matter. Of course, Bama fans are all going to get on Feinbaum on Monday, which I'm so sad I'm going to be in Sweden and going to miss. But they're going to be on Bama. Of course, they didn't have Jamison Williams, or whatever excuse they have is the reason they didn't win. We dominated. Ellis Robinson has grown up to be just an absolute man. Malachi, what a stud coming in. I don't want to take up everybody's time because I'm just elated. I'm glad that God gave me the gout so I wouldn't be a raging crazy person tonight. Go Dogs. Hunker down. Let's go.
Go Dogs indeed. Hunker down, and that's what Georgia did over and over and over again tonight, making big plays on defense, coming up with the huge play on special teams. And I'll tell you, excuse me, Rodrigo, I know this is predating your time, but I'm reminded of 2002 SEC championship when that first win for Georgia in this game in the old stadium, the Georgia Dome, was started by a big block punt. Tonight, I know you love the special teams, being a great specialist. Georgia gets the big block punt. Cole Spear, who we all know how valuable he's been to Georgia's special teams unit, he comes through there, gets the block punt, sets up the short field, the first Georgia touchdown. It was all of those little things tonight adding up so well for UGA. You can't say enough about everything that they did.
Yeah, it was so great to see that. Just a great way to start the game, really, with the blocked punt on special teams. And as soon as that blocked punt happened, I immediately went back to the 2017 National Championship game against Alabama when Tyler Simmons blocked a punt against Alabama. But unfortunately, it was ruled that he was offsides. And as soon as that blocked punt happened, I said, Tyler Simmons was onside, ball don't lie, and we ended up being able to get our first touchdown of the game. And it just felt like the story was going to be written differently tonight, as opposed to what we've seen in years past playing against Alabama in this particular venue. As soon as that block punt came through, he was onside. We recovered it. We go in and score the touchdown right away. It just felt like the story is going to be different tonight, and we're going to have a happy ending. So it was great to see special teams make an impact. That was one of my big rocks. One of my big keys to the game is I want to see an impact on special teams. Sure enough, we got it with the blocked punt. We also led the way in punt average. We had a 45-plus yard punt average to Bama's 39. So the field position battle played into our favor as well. Had a big return from Zachariah Branch to set up another touchdown. So it was really great to see special teams make a big impact and help us win this game tonight.
Yeah, interesting note, and we'll show this on the screen, then go back to phone calls. This was actually the 7th time in an SEC championship that Georgia's blocked a punt. Now, you don't block that many punts if you're not playing in a lot of SEC championships, so that's part of that. But it's also a very interesting piece of trivia that in the entire history of the game, there have only been 12 total block punts. Georgia has 7 of those. Georgia's been in the game a lot, but it's still amazing Yeah, so that's blocks and field goals. It's total. It's punts and field goals. So total blocks altogether. Georgia's got more than half of them. It's really an amazing thing to think that Georgia's been that successful doing that. It obviously factored big into this game tonight. And I'll tell you, I also love what Rodrigo says about, if you think back to the 2017 National Championship game, it was the block that Georgia didn't get there because of some bad officiating on Tyler Simmons that probably slowed down the momentum that maybe prevented Georgia from winning that game. Tonight was a lot of retribution for that. Well said by Rodrigo Blankenship indeed. And by the way, Georgia fans and Georgia staffers having a great time with all this SEC-colored confetti down here. They're scooping all that up. And we're going to scoop up some more calls here, too. Will's in Miami. Will, you're next up on our DawgNation postgame call-in show. Will, we may be coming to see you. Georgia in a national championship game. Who knows by the time the month of January is done. But for now, we'll let you weigh in on this big SEC championship win. What did it mean to you, and what did you think about it?
So I grew up a Georgia fan, so it's a huge win for me. I love seeing it. But I also go to University of Miami, so I wanted to know, what do you guys think about this changing Miami's playoff odds? And overall, it's just great to see that Georgia is securing the bye, and they're doing great going into the playoffs.
Well, I appreciate that phone call. And, Will, I'll bring Rodrigo back in on this. I do think it's going to be a very spirited debate tomorrow. And listen, Georgia won this game convincingly. It's going to put a, I think, real decision in the hand of the committee. You're either for the very first time going to include a 3-loss team in the college football playoff, something that has not happened as of yet, or you're going to essentially punish Alabama, who would have been in the field last week, for playing in the SEC championship game. That's not an easy decision for the committee, but obviously, depending on what it does, it makes more room for Miami, along with Notre Dame, to perhaps get some at-large consideration. Certainly, the BYU loss earlier today, helps if you're one of those teams ranked 11, 12, 10, where Notre Dame and Miami find itself right now with Alabama just ahead of it. But I think tomorrow it's going to be a very spirited debate about who gets in at the bottom of this field as an at-large. And as the caller also pointed out, if you're a Georgia fan, you get to sit back and realize that you're not fighting for scraps on the table at the bottom of the standings. You're way up there near the top, getting a bye, knowing that you've secured everything that you need to do here. Nice to know that Georgia's not a part of this conversation, but in terms of what happens next, I certainly believe it's going to be a very, very spirited debate on the part of this committee for a TV show that starts at noon tomorrow.
Yes, I think the playoff committee is going to have a heck of a time trying to decide what the end of this college football playoff rankings are going to look like tomorrow with these last few teams. And I think that tonight is honestly their worst nightmare. Having Alabama lose and pick up their 3rd loss, which, by the way, is their 2nd loss in their last 4 games now, and losing in the convincing fashion that they did with a 21-point margin. I mean, looking like they didn't even belong on the field tonight. I think that this is the committee's worst nightmare. I think that they tried to give themselves a little bit of a buffer with these most recent rankings by bumping Alabama up to the 9 spot ahead of Notre Dame, so they have a little bit of cushion in the event that Alabama loses a competitive game. They could still drop them into that 10 spot and reserve those 11 and 12 seeds for the automatic bids that are going to be coming out of other conference champions. But because Alabama has lost in such a convincing fashion, I don't really think the committee is going to have an easy time with making that decision now. I think this really opens up a can of worms for, are we going to leave Alabama in, picking up their 3rd loss in a very spectacular fashion, or are we going to go ahead and have some of these other bubble teams make their way in, such as Notre Dame, such as Miami, who have just been chomping at the bit to potentially get some of these last couple playoff spots. So Selection Sunday is going to be spicy. Obviously, I don't think that any Georgia fans would be too upset if Alabama got left out, especially after this performance tonight, going up against Oklahoma, another playoff team, and then rematching against Georgia at this point in the season. I think Alabama is showing the committee that maybe they aren't able to compete with the rest of the playoff field anymore. So obviously, I'm not going to be too upset if Alabama gets left out, but it does bring up a worrisome precedent if you do leave them out after competing in their conference championship game. That sets a precedent that maybe you really don't want to end up in this conference championship because it opens up the possibility that you could play yourself out of the college football playoff. So the committee is going to have a heck of a time, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it all ends up shaking out tomorrow at noon.
No, I think that's really interesting, and I'll say this real quick, and then we'll go back to phones. And by the way, Ja'Cory Thomas just walked right behind us here. Ja'Cory's over there giving some handshakes and saying hello to some folks. Obviously, a guy had a big sack in this game. We're going to give him our Serve Pro game ball a little bit later on. But Ja'Cory having some fun with fans right over there as this celebration's ongoing. And Rodrigo, let me say one more thing to you, and then we're going to go back to phones on this. I think everybody said, boy, you can't punish a team for playing in a championship game, and that's been conventional wisdom. But I also think there's something to be said for Georgia deserves some prize for winning this game. And the notion that by winning the SEC championship, you might also knock your hated nemesis out of this game, your longtime rival competitor out of this game. I think that also seems appropriate, too. I think that Georgia would like to think, okay, as bad as they've beaten Alabama tonight, they shouldn't have to play Alabama again this year. And I do think the debate is more than just don't punish the team for playing in the game. It's also let's make sure we appropriately reward the team that won the game. In this case, Georgia, I think it's totally appropriate that maybe Georgia shouldn't have to worry about Alabama again for another year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that there should be a reward for the winning team. Now, as we've talked about, maybe you don't want to punish the team that loses, but I also think there's something to be said for actually competing in this conference championship. I think it's one thing if you show up and you have a highly contested battle, as we've seen from Georgia and Alabama in years past. I think that if that was the case today, then sure, then so be it. Leave Alabama in the college football playoff because they're competitive. They're showing that they're able to compete at a high level with other playoff field teams. But the performance that we saw from them tonight, I don't really think is telling that same story. I think you actually have to put up a good fight in your conference championship in order to have a case. It was a similar situation with Texas Tech and BYU in the Big 12 championship game today. BYU didn't really put up the fight that everyone was expecting to see from them if they were going to make a legitimate case for a spot in the college football playoff. So I think that because of the way that this game went down, as you said, I think that, maybe Alabama shouldn't necessarily be in the playoff anymore. I think if they had showed up and put together a wire-to-wire fight, and it ended up coming down to a last-second field goal or a last-second touchdown to decide the fate of this game, then I'm all for leaving Alabama in. But because of the rather convincing manner in which they lost today, as well as BYU, I don't really think that you have many legs to stand on anymore to make a case for the college football playoff. They also, had a quite puzzling loss in week 1 of the season to Florida State, who ended up with 5 wins. And so, you start to see some of those same issues and some of those same weaknesses repeat themselves with Florida State and Oklahoma, and now against Georgia tonight. So, I think that there definitely should be a reward for Georgia earning a bye, getting to go to a place that this team is very familiar with, playing in the Sugar Bowl. But also, I do think that extra sweet prize coming from knocking out this nemesis in Alabama of the playoff consideration would be the cherry on top.
Let's go to Joseph and Griffin. Joseph, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Joseph, how about them Dogs? How about back-to-back SEC champions? Texas a year ago, beating Bama tonight. And how about a dominant win, really cathartic revenge in a building that's been a house of horrors against this opponent? How about all of it, Joseph? What do you think about it?
Oh, hey, B.A., your voice sounding good. Hey, Rodrigo. Hey, B.A., I'm so happy. I was in crying. Had a grown man crying. Finally beat the crooked A, our boogeyman. Finally put him to rest. I'm so happy we're back-to-back SEC champions. Now we get the rest, like Rodrigo was saying, get the rest for a little while, get our horses back together, and get ready to go on this run to win us a natty. So I'm so happy tonight. It's a great game, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs, Joseph. Great phone call. And Rodrigo, I don't mind telling you, and I'm sure I probably have told you this at some point, there have been a lot of moments during this season when I didn't really have Georgia as a national championship team. And I'm not talking about I was critical of them or beating them up or anything like that, just trying to provide the most fair analysis that I could. I thought this team's ceiling was something below that. And listen, there's obviously no way of knowing how this season's going to end. Maybe they won't win the national title. Even if they don't, I'm going to remember this one tonight because of how special it was. But the point is we have really watched this team grow up over the course of the year. We've watched them get better. We saw the way in which, just compare the September game to tonight, all of that improvement. And listen, when you start thinking about what's going to happen once the postseason begins, once the college football playoff begins, yeah, as Joseph the caller said there, it is all possible now, and it could happen. And boy, I think the level of optimism that we all have now is far higher than it was a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago. And that, to me, Rodrigo, is truly a testament to this team's commitment to improvement, this team's commitment to getting better and to figuring stuff out on both sides of the ball. That's really been what this year has been about.
Yes, absolutely. All three sides of the ball, offense, defense, and special teams. We have seen improvement in all three parts of this team from week one until now. And, I think you're spot on. I think early in the season, the two of us and a lot of other fans out there were maybe wondering what exactly is the ceiling for this Georgia team. Are they really going to be able to compete for a national championship, compete at the highest level? There were just so many unknowns, especially with, a new quarterback this year. That always is going to introduce some uncertainty as to the success of your team. So many new faces on defense, so many question marks about the offense. How is the offensive line going to be with so many young players, starting for the first time in their career? There was just so much uncertainty around this team. But if we know anything, we know Coach Smart and his ability to build a program and build a roster. And sure enough, we're seeing the fruits of his labor, his hard work, the hard work of the entire coaching staff to have so many highly talented guys and just preparing them the right way in the offseason so that they're ready when the big moments arise. These guys are ready to step in and do the things that they recruited them to be able to do. So it really is a testament to Coach Smart and his staff, all the work that they have put into this group of guys to get them ready and to see so much improvement over the course of the season. On last week's pregame show with Kaylee, we were talking about what are some of the guys that have seen the most improvement, and I pointed out a few guys that I really felt like have made some major improvements from the beginning of the season. And I also shouted out both of our coordinators, Coach Bobo and Coach Schumann. They've both been doing a great job throughout the course of this season, especially over the last 5 weeks. The offense has been firing on all cylinders. The defense has been playing lights out, and they did so once again today to the tune of -3 rushing yards for Alabama, as well as holding Ty Simpson to under 50% completions on the game tonight. So the defense is just playing spectacular. I hope that we will see this continue in the playoffs. And Coach Bobo was in his bag once again tonight, pulling out all the stops, calling those very timely plays to get us third down conversions, keep the chains moving, and punch it into the end zone tonight. So just a really great effort from the coaching staff, the players today. And as you said, just a tremendous amount of improvement that we have seen from the beginning of the season to this SEC championship win tonight.
Yeah, take a look at those defensive stats. That really tells the story of what this is all about. Great work by our folks putting those graphics together. Let's go back to Jonathan in Hawkinsville. You're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Jonathan, how about them Dogs? How about a second straight SEC championship as Georgia knocks off Alabama tonight, 28-7? What'd you think about it?
About them Dogs, CA. I'm actually kind of surprised.
How about them Dogs?
I'm glad that your voice is sounding better. So I'm actually kind of upset that it's not sounding like it was beforehand because you cheering so loud, sir.
Yes, sir. That's right. Hey, listen, for all those Georgia fans losing their voice cheering tonight, that's time well spent. I'll tell you this, you would have loved this crowd tonight. It sounded amazing. They did a great job of impacting this. This felt like a very big-time game, and I'm going to credit that Georgia crowd for doing it. You would have loved to have seen it.
Had to work today, but
we may have lost.
It would have been actually, I think, to zero it. I mean, that was actually very good umpire right in the way of a tackle. But other than that, we played lights out. I'm glad that we got the bye. Number 2 is going to look good on us, and I'm ready to get some folks healthy.
I love that. Great phone call. Appreciate you being here. And, yeah, that's going to be the key, getting guys healthier. Obviously, if I had to guess, we won't see Drew Bobo probably again this season. That's just my best guess. I don't obviously have a medical degree. I can't say that for sure. That's just my best guess. But getting guys a little healthier, finding a little extra rest, it's going to be so crucial for UGA to use that time well. We know that it will. And, by the way, Rodrigo, speaking of Drew Bobo here for a moment, it's a real testament to Malachi Toliver that once this game started, what had been the most talked about storyline throughout the lead up to it, by the time the game began, it's almost like we forgot about that. Malachi just settled in and played. It's almost like what you say about a baseball umpire. If you're not thinking about them, they're probably doing their job pretty well. And I think for a lot of Georgia fans, once the game began, they really weren't thinking about Malachi Toliver much anymore. everything I could tell, and I'm sure it was a challenge, I don't dispute that it was, but everything I could tell, Malachi was doing okay. In this very big issue for Georgia, it seemed like they handled it about as well as they probably could.
Yeah. Yes, it felt like he stepped in, and really the offense didn't skip a beat. It was really great to see him be able to step up in the way that he did, and that's something that Coach Smart had talked about last week after the Georgia Tech game is, thank goodness we gave him the reps that we did the week before when we were playing against Charlotte, so that he got some more game reps, he got some more game experience at, full speed, getting those live bullets thrown at him, the live rush looks coming in, having to, identify the defensive fronts and help out the offense to just be in the best position possible. And it just felt like the offense didn't skip a beat today with him stepping in there. It really was a next man up mentality, as Coach Smart always likes to tell us. And sure enough, he was prepared, I think, to the best of his abilities, to the best of this coaching staff's ability to be able to step in and hit the ground running. And, our run game was still pretty solid. This Alabama defense is obviously pretty stout in their own right, but we still ran to the tune of 140 rushing yards on the day. Gunner wasn't really under a whole lot of pressure. I believe he was 20 for 26 and felt like he was pretty comfortable more or less in the pocket. Obviously, there were a couple times where maybe he was under some heat, but overall, I feel like the offensive line held up really well in pass protection. They made some lanes for our running backs. We had a couple of runs that really could have popped off or even more yardage. It was basically just shoestring tackles that got to us a couple times. So I feel like Toliver did a great job stepping in for Bobo, and hopefully with even more practice as we get ready for this playoff run, if Bobo isn't available, then Toliver will be able to continue to perform at the level that he did tonight.
Rodrigo, we'll get a final thought from you coming up in a moment. But prior to that, let me get Derek in Tennessee. Derek, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Derek, how about them Dogs, SEC champions for a second straight year, getting a huge measure of revenge against Alabama tonight here in a building where Georgia has been tormented in the past? Tell me what you thought about it.
BA, back-to-back, baby. Things I noticed, we created momentum early with that block punt and getting early on the scoreboard. Defense seems to be trending up, man. And that block by London Humphreys to Spring Frazier for a touchdown. Look, BA, I'm not greedy, but we should beat Alabama 1 out of every 2 times, man. We should. And so I'm glad we got the win. Go Dogs, 2025 SEC champions. Let's keep it going.
I love it, Derek. Great phone call. And, Rodrigo, I'll come back to you and let you sign off and sound off any way that you want to. But I will also, Eric, echo what Derek said there. For a lot of Georgia fans who have memories of a good number of years, they remember all of these previous games against Alabama. However, I thought that Kirby Smart did a good job this week of pointing out that for the individual players, they really don't have that memory, that they really only know what they were a part of, and anything that predates them might as well be ancient history. And I do think that is true, even though obviously throughout the years we saw these losses pile up and we were left to wonder, well, is there some sort of mystical power that's making this happen? I truly think that Kirby had the right mindset going in this week, and I think he described it pretty well. And listen, whether this team was aware of the past or not, they pretty clearly wanted this one against Alabama tonight, and I don't know how aware they are of what so many of the folks who were watching us felt, but, man, you are hearing this just release of pressure, this emotional lift, because a lot of Georgia fans have been hungry for this for quite some time, and I love hearing them talk about it, Rodrigo.
Yeah, I love too. And, I think Coach Smart said it really well. As far as this team goes, this exact makeup of this team has only lost 1 game to Alabama, where we have seen Coach Smart struggle in his time as a head coach at the University of Georgia to beat this particular program. But, for this particular team, they've only seen him 1 time. Now, a certain portion of this team has seen Bama for a 3rd time now in 2 years, because the majority of this team was making the trip to Tuscaloosa last year when we fell in defeat to them in 2024. But I think that because of that, you have so many guys on this team who had just a really bad taste in their mouth, not only from earlier this year, but also from last year, and really wanted to make amends and start to change the narrative that, whether they're aware of or not, is definitely out there among the Georgia fan base. So I'm just so proud of this team, so proud of the way that they came out. You could tell there was an increased level of intensity and focus and attention to detail that really propelled this team from the jump. The aggressive play calling from the coaches on offense, defense, and special teams, it was just a perfect storm and the perfect combination to just have a really convincing win against our nemesis tonight.
So, Rodrigo, before I give you a chance to say a final word, ongoing over here to my right, you continue to see Georgia players making their way into the stands. They're continuing to pose for pictures with their family. It's almost like a scene like you'd see after a high school game, where it's a lot more common to see parents congregating around the field and players going to give that hug. You've got no feeling over here. You're seeing some of this play out here right now. I love it, and I guess I'm curious, how much do you remember your big wins, whether it was Auburn 2017 SEC Championship, maybe in Pasadena, if your family was there? How much do you remember that chance to come out of the locker room? Now, of course, in 2017 in Pasadena, Kirby was trying to yank you out of there and get you back on the plane and get you home. We've talked about that before, but do you remember those big celebrations? Because right now we're watching a good number of Georgia parents and a handful of Georgia players who are really enjoying themselves. How much do you remember that from your playing career?
I remember when we were able to avenge our loss to Auburn in the 2017 season and get that SEC championship win to the exact same score that we won by tonight, by the way, 28-7. Revenge is pretty sweet, and it's kind of interesting how things play out like that. But I remember walking into our to the lounge area where all of our player family was after that SEC championship win, and really the room just erupted because myself and so many other players had walked in at about the same time, and so just a big group of us had walked in, and all of our friends and family had turned around, and it was really just a party in the player family room. It was such a great time getting to just hug on all of your loved ones, just get to be among such great company and such good people. Just so much fellowship, so much companionship with all of our player family. It was really just a great experience, and I'm sure that these guys are getting to experience that as well. It's such a great time to be a Georgia Bulldog. This Kirby Smart era has been one of the most incredible eras for this Georgia football team that we have seen probably in the program's history, and so it's just really great to get to experience all of these great moments, whether it's been as a former player myself, getting to win an SEC championship, getting to win a Rose Bowl, a college football playoff semifinal, just having so many great memories in my time there. And now as a fan, and as an analyst as well, just getting to see this team have so much success in the manner that they have, back-to-back SEC champions, and now these players just getting to soak it all in once again tonight is really just such an incredible, really special feeling for myself, and just really so happy and proud for this team this year.
Rodrigo, it's an honor to talk to you about it. I really appreciate it. It's been such a fun ride. Can't wait for wherever it goes next. And obviously, we think it's going to be some special things here for Georgia. Thanks for your analysis. Thanks for just your energy on the show. We appreciate that. We're going to keep the phone calls going, by the way. We're going to let Rodrigo get back and have his celebration continue here on this Saturday night. Rodrigo, great to be with you, and we'll look forward to talking to you very soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on again tonight, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs, indeed. Love that from Rodrigo Blankenship. Going to hear from Jeff Sentell here in just a little bit, too. Want to hear from you, though. 678-645-DOG. DAWG. 678-645-DOG. Click the link. Join us in the chat. We'll talk to you here tonight. How about Derek in Albany, Georgia, checking in tonight? Derek, down there in South Georgia, are they happy tonight? Georgia's the SEC champions once again. Do we have Derek?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Them freaking dogs, BA.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If we're going to change the show up, we're going to it was a pretty good game, boy. It feels good to roll them Tide on out of here. One play I saw, the referee was in the way. I think KJ Bolden would have stopped that touchdown if the referee wasn't in the way. But all in all, it's a good game. I'm glad we put belt to behind on these guys, and these puppies that grew up at the right time. They big dogs now. Hey, have a good one, BA.
Have a good one, Derek. I appreciate it. And I'll tell you a funny story to go along with that. So word was, I didn't see this with my own eyes, but word was right over here when the trophy celebration took place, walking off the field, Jordan Hall had his belt in his hand. He was walking with that strap in his hand because Georgia put belt to you-know-what here tonight. So you better believe that's exactly what Georgia had going on, and that's exactly what Georgia was doing. We'll get more of your phone calls. I also want to bring in a special guest here for a moment. Our guy Jordan, who's been a part of our call-in show before, also doing some work with ESPN tonight. He wanted to pop over here and give some thoughts about this win. Jordan, what did it feel like to be on the field to watch this game tonight?
So I was up on 300 with Skycam watching the reels. It was a loud stadium. But
it was loud. Listen, the crowd was into it, and to me, this SEC championship felt just as big as ever.
It was big as ever. Georgia has owned this stadium in every SEC championship game.
Well, listen, I love it, Jordan. Thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate that. Good stuff. Jordan's a great guy doing some good work. I wanted to pop over here and say hello to folks. We'll let them do that as the celebration is continuing here. You got player parents walking by. You got Georgia players up in the stands. We're turning Mercedes-Benz Stadium into a party house tonight, I believe. That's what Georgia fans are doing. In fact, it's happening all over the country right now. DawgNation pride running far and wide. How about Derek and no, we already got Derek. How about Steven in Maryland? Steven, you're next up on our DawgNation postgame call-in show. Up in the DMV, what are they thinking about this tonight, Steven? How about them Dogs? How about an SEC championship against the team that Georgia fans, if we're being honest, would probably want to beat more than any other? Steven, what'd you think about it?
How about them, BA? What a daggum game. I tell you what, man. I grew up as a North Harlem elementary there in Harlem, Georgia, outside of Augusta. I grew up as a North Harlem Bulldog, a Harlem Middle Bulldog, a Harlem High Bulldog, and I'm all the way up here in the D.C. area up here, and I'm a Georgia Bulldog, man. You said it best earlier. We are the king of the mountain. The SEC is the best premier division, and it comes through us now. Who cares what happens out there with Ohio State and Indiana? That's a conciliatory game, whatever you want to call it. My family's all over Georgia. My sister's up in Woodstock. My dad's up there in Clayton, the home of Gunner Stockton. My kin folks down there, around Harlem, Georgia on Grant Road. And I tell you what, this is a big win.
I'll tell you this, Stephen. Hey, Stephen, hold up. I'll tell you this. Hang with me for 1 second. Don't go anywhere. I'll tell you this. There's about 3 generations of Gunner's family that was just over here a minute ago hooping and hollering, having a good time and posing for pictures. So the Stockton family was just right over here just a minute ago having a good time. So you better believe that everybody's enjoying it here right now, and I'll let you finish your point.
Yes, sir. Only thing I was going to say was to that is that how about Kirby and up on the stage saying the boys want to practice tonight? I've never heard a celebratory flex like that ever in my life. And the last thing I'll say is if Debor had on the black hoodie of death, let's talk about that visor of destruction. And how about Kirby giving credit when they said about how's your defense? He said this is Schumann's defense. Us Georgia fans were spoiled. We always, worry about Bobo and Schumann, but what a game.
I love it. Great phone call, Stephen. I love every word that you said. And one of the things, Jeff, that Stephen, great phone call. One of the things that Stephen was mentioning was Kirby on the podium saying, our team wants to practice tonight. And it goes back to something we were saying in September, that we didn't know, I'm talking about me in particular, we didn't know how good Georgia was going to be. But it was obvious from the word go that Kirby Smart liked his team. And the way that he celebrated on the podium, obviously it's not just happy about winning an SEC championship. I think he's glad this team, these players, I think he's glad they got an SEC championship and have a chance to now move on to the college football playoff. I think he's happy for these guys because I think he really did all along like this team.
So I talked to Dylan Bell afterward, Brandon, and I thought, Dylan Bell has a redemption arc. By the way, how insufferable have you been? Have you been over the top crazy?
We've been okay. No, we've been okay. We'll get there, but we've been okay thus far.
So Dylan, he came in with Cole Spear. He said he about cried when he saw Cole Spear make that play. So all these things, I asked Dylan, I said, Dylan, is this like the ultimate example, reflection of your team's great culture? And he's like, man, it sounds nice, but really this is just the standard at the University of Georgia. Brandon, I tell you what, we've watched a lot of games, and I was like, is this redemption? Is this an exorcism? All I know is this, Brandon, that football team had blood in the water all day long. They were going after him. I mean, you saw a couple of times Ty Simpson today basically just threw the towel like in Rocky IV. Like a couple of those slides, he's like, let me give up on this play, Brandon. I think I've got this right. Somebody correct me. 17 carries for -4 yards.
I think it was -3 is what I have. But, yeah, it's negative yards rushing on the day. Kirby Smart said before the season began, we want to be better at running the ball and stopping the run. Tonight, George was plenty good at running the ball. But how about in an SEC championship holding Alabama to negative yards rushing?
This is going to feel like Family Feud right now, Brandon, but I'm going to see if I can do speed round and see how many you've clicked off already. Malachi Toliver, big hero tonight.
We said it. Once the game began, and I'm yelling too much, I'm going to end up throwing my voice out. Once the game began, we never thought about Toliver again. He just settled in and played. Biggest story leading into the game, not a story during the game. That's a testament to Malachi Toliver.
I mean, really, when you're anonymous, that's the best way you can be as an offensive lineman. Number 2, Dylan Bell. Brandon, you remember in 2023, costly fumble against Alabama. What does he do today? Catch after big catch after big catch after big catch. You see Georgia's players all around. Cole Spear, a guy that was barely used. Rodrigo Robinson, I'm sure at some point the Alabama defensive staff was looking around and like, who are these guys? We haven't seen them. I think that was Rodrigo Robinson's first touchdown ever at Georgia, at least in a couple years.
First catch of the season for sure.
First catch, first touchdown reception. You saw Gunnar Stockton do completed 80% of his passes. That's redemption from his worst performance of the season last week against Georgia Tech. Oh, Brandon, who did they beat tonight? Who did the Dogs beat tonight?
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Can I tell you something really funny? So there was Alabama fans, you got to love them. They're spirited. They had this cool AI, basically scroll. It was about 14 by 16, right? And it had a picture of Debor and a picture of Kirby. And it said, "Who's your daddy, Kirby?" And you know what? I love looking over there in the fourth quarter, and they were rolling that scroll up. They're like, yeah, not going to happen today.
Let me tell you something. If these Alabama people could read, they'd be reading history books tonight because all their best moments are in the past. All right, more phone calls coming up here. 678-645-DAWG, 678-645-DAWG. Also, click the link. Join the show. We're happy to have you tonight. How about Craig's and Warner Robins? Craig, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Craig, how about them Dogs? How about this big Georgia win? What'd y'all think about it over there down in the WR?
Hey, we loved it, BA. We absolutely loved it. Listen, this is why you don't run from hard. When you have an opportunity to beat a hated rival like Alabama, you go in there and you knock them out. If you look at Kirby versus Kalen Debor wearing his slick suit, didn't know even how to answer questions. Kirby looked like he wanted to fight somebody before the game. And Hot Rod said, hey, we left, they didn't come in and compete. They did not come in and compete. And you talked about the table scraps. Well, we left a lot of meat on the bone in this game. We could have won 50-0 in this game. We left a little meat on the bone. Those are the scraps that Miami and those other teams are going to be trying to gobble up to try to get in the playoff. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs indeed. And to follow up the phone call, Jeff, I'll be honest with you. So Georgia's up 14-0. And look, you're thinking about previous games. It was 13-0 at the half in the 2017 National Championship game. It was 28-14 at the half in the 2018 SEC Championship game. That couple of touchdown margin is something that Georgia had before. And in my mind, I'm like, if you can punch through that, if you can be up 17, if you can be up 21, that might be enough to really change this game. And so when Kirby makes the really courageous decision to go for an aggressive fourth down call, I'm like, man, Georgia's going for the juggler, which I like the aggressive version of Kirby. It's not always going to work, but give me aggressive Kirby over the alternative any day of the week. I like that. And yet, on that final drive of the first half, really felt like that Georgia didn't match the play calling with the fourth down decision. You're making a risky choice going forward in your own territory right there, but then Georgia seemed to be a little tighter with the play calls after that. You go into the half at only up 14, and in my mind I thought this is still a football game. This is still a game that Alabama can win. And yet Georgia gets, consecutive 3s and out to begin the second half, gets the Nate Frazier touchdown after the Ja'Cory Thomas sack, and now you're up 21-0. He was going up by 3 touchdowns that I think really made the difference here. That was a margin, even with an attempted to come back, that was the margin that Alabama just was not going to be able to come back from.
So, Brandon, here's what I thought Georgia did. I know you like to talk about the middle 8, right? We know Alabama was getting the ball first in the second half, right? I think they wanted that first down to keep Bama from having a drive to get some points and then stack on their first drive of the game. Lots of things here, Brandon. I almost ran out of breath when I was talking about redemption. What about Nate Frazier, the fumble last meeting against Alabama? He comes back with the touchdown. And, Brandon, I got one for you haven't thought of. Kirby Smart is now 2-7 against Alabama, right? But you know what's the most lopsided victory in that 2-7 now, right now? Georgia winning by 21. Bama's biggest win so far were 17. And I made a point on social media, Brandon. they turned these Alabama Crimson Tide fans into Gator fans leaving Jacksonville early because they left this one a little early, Brandon.
Biggest win for Georgia against Alabama since 1976. Obviously a famous game in Georgia-Alabama history going back to the time just before I was born. We got more phone calls coming up here. We'll get you. So if you're on hold, stay where you are, 678-645-DAWG. Click the link. Join us via the chat. Let me also tell you this. At the UGA bookstore, first of all, I'm looking good tonight. My Johnny O apparel, they sell that at the UGA bookstore. But please know that right now, they've also got SEC championship apparel. T-shirts ready to go. You can be at the UGA bookstore when it opens tomorrow, and you can be decked out in SEC championship apparel. You got Alabama friends at work. We know they don't work, so probably not. But you got Alabama fans in your neighborhood, somewhere like that. You can go around, show them that SEC championship shirt. It is right there. By the way, the horn just went off. That means that the Georgia buses are getting ready to leave. That's the international symbol for get out of the stands and stop celebrating. We're all getting on the bus and getting ready to go. That's what those air horns mean. They've still been celebrating ever since then. But the point is, UGA Bookstore, you want the SEC championship gear, it is there right now. It makes a great Christmas gift here, too, because Georgia handles this business. Their playoff game won't be until after Christmas. So you can celebrate the SEC championship with those hard-to-buy folks on your Christmas list at the UGA Bookstore. Go see them in Athens. It's a really fun place to just take a drive to. But if you can't do that online, UGAbookstore.com. It's where dogs shop. All right, back to the phones we go.
Brandon, one other thing. Glenn Schumann, look at the way this defense is playing right now. Brandon, when you're watching Georgia play tonight, you're wondering if Georgia plays like this, they can hang, they can beat anybody in the country. You see Malachi Toliver with a big smile on his face walking back into the Georgia locker room right there. I mean, this was a young man that had a lot on him. And, you know, Brandon, everybody's wondering about the Alabama defensive line, especially James Smith, a former 5-star, made a play early on. That was about the only time I thought that Malachi Toliver and that interior Georgia wall was even bludged.
Let's go back to phones here. Tim's in Oglethorpe. You're next up. DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show. Tim, how about them Dogs? How about an SEC championship win? What did it mean to you tonight? We lost Tim. Let's keep it going here. Phone calls tonight. How about Jamie and Ella-J? Jamie, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show. We love it up there in Ella-J. Gorgeous part of the beautiful North Georgia mountains. Jamie, thanks for being part of the show. Tell us about the SEC championship from your perspective.
Yes, sir. Hey, Brandon, how you doing, brother?
I'm great.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you thank you for you and all the staff, Kaylee and Jeff and all, for what you guys do. It's a great show. Love it. Listen to it every day. Second of all, I just want to see what your opinion is about the recruits that we lost this year. Kind of a bad class, but how you think this will turn around our recruiting for future classes and maybe even with the late signing period or transfer portal? Thanks, Brandon.
Well, I appreciate the phone call, Jamie. And I'll tell you this, when future, whether it be, like you say, transfers late 2026, probably the 2027 class, what they see here tonight is that Georgia is still the place to be. This is a place you can come get paid. More importantly, this is a place you can come win. You can develop yourself and you can demonstrate to the next level that you're a big-time football player, because in the NFL, they want guys that can make plays in big games. So, Jeff, I think a win like this not only becomes a great thing to celebrate here tonight, but has a chance to perpetuate just further success for Georgia, because you got to believe the next generation of college player sees Georgia once again on top in the SEC. Georgia has no plans of going anywhere anytime soon.
Brandon, you were talking about future success. I was watching Georgia fly around on defense today, and that's a good term for it, fly around. They're going to lose Christian Miller, right? They're going to lose Dalen Everett, right? C.J. Allen, right? After that, just about the whole defense comes back, Brandon. A lot of those guys that were doing the hunting. One great story that came out of the post-game press conference, I don't know if you saw this soundbite, but somebody was asking very politically last week for the Georgia Tech game. They were asking the Georgia panel, all four of them were up at the podium, what do you want? Do you want the time off? Do you want to rest? Do you want to skip out? Quintavious Johnson, who had big plays tonight, knocked down a pass, he looked dead straight. He said, we want to play for a championship. And you know what I asked him when he got out to the post-game press conference? I said, was this what Georgia looks like when they play for a championship? He went on with a great 3 or 4 minute answer. Also, Kirby Smart at halftime, they were kind of keying us in on what Kirby said. What do you think he said? 0-0, keep playing, keep going. And then afterward, it was a joyous Georgia SEC champion locker room.
Speaking of Kirby, we're going to hear from Kirby coming up in a little bit, what he told everybody about the big win for Georgia tonight. Let's go back to phones, though. Matt's in Texas. Matt, you're next up on our DawgNation postgame call-in show. Matt, how about them Dogs? How about an SEC championship for a second straight year? Tell us what you thought.
Hey, BA, you guys got me. Okay, I didn't get the prompt, so you know what the deal is, right? SEC
hey, Matt, how are you? I do.
Good to see you. You know what the deal is, right? Hold on, let me make sure. All right, we're good.
I do.
SEC championship.
You ready to toast it right here?
Right here. Here we go.
You're ready to do it.
Got a little Stetson
I love it.
Action. Weller 12.
It's a great thing to see.
So good,
it's a night for
BA.
celebrating for sure.
Every SEC championship, it tastes so good. I had to get that in. So
I love it.
You know, everyone. I don't want to take up. I know a lot of people want to get in. They want to get their points in, and a lot of people made the things I wanted to say tonight as well. But and Jeff just touched on it just 2 seconds ago. I mean, I felt like we mentioned, you know, they were mentioning Quintavious Johnson every single play. He was a wrecking ball tonight. He played great. Dylan Everett was great. The defense looks fantastic. C.J. Allen, Kirk was making Nakobe Dean alliterations, comparisons to C.J. and Nakobe. We're peaking at the right time. I don't know what to say. I wanted to quote some Shakespeare. I'm going to leave you with this. We'll quote some Shakespeare because here come the playoffs, and I think we've got a real shot at this thing. Where there's some really great teams. We got Ohio State on right now. Oregon's out there. Texas Tech looks good. But BA, I'm going to leave this. I'll end this call with a little Shakespeare. Try havoc and let slip the dogs of war. Let's go win this thing. We're looking good.
Beautifully said.
Talk to you soon.
Beautifully said, Matt. Talk to you soon, Matt. Great stuff. And, you know, another name that comes up once again, the same one you mentioned, that's Quintavious Johnson. I don't pretend to be a scout, but, Jeff, for me, I don't know how many players I've seen grow up and mature over the course of a season like Quintavious Johnson. This is a prospect that Georgia's always liked. They trusted him. They wanted him to be a big part of what they were doing at the edge rushing spot this year. But my gosh, how much has he rewarded that trust with deflected pass, making plays all over the place. On the one that Ty Simpson essentially surrendered on, the second and 5 play, Simpson just goes down. That's because Quintavious Johnson is coming, breathing right down on him. I mean, Quintavious' improvement over the course of the season, it's been remarkable.
Brandon, he was basically going to fill the job of Chaz Chambliss. I remember the first time I saw him on the recruiting trail. Remember, he was a quarterback at Mays, Brandon, and he was a guy that you watched him run, you watched him open up full gear, and you're like, this guy's different. This is a guy that the NFL Combine would savor over. Another redemption arc, Brandon. There's so many. You remember Ellis Robinson in the Alabama game where he dives on the pile?
That's right.
What about a jackhammer tackle? And what about one-on-one lockdown defense on Ryan Williams in the corner right there?
You think on the big third down play early game where he just blows up that play, you think Ellis Robinson could have done that a year ago, would have wanted to embrace that physicality or just maybe even being in the right place? Obviously, cornerback's hard to play as a freshman. But my gosh, that's another guy. I mean, I think that Robinson is here. He's just a good cornerback now. He's not a prospect on the rise or a guy with a promising future. He's just good now. He is on the scene right now.
I mean, he really just showed you right there. What was the only hole in his game? Physicality, weight, striking somebody. Brandon, that was a tone setter right there. And you look at how confident he's playing right now. Just let him get some interceptions, and all of a sudden, he's a fire-breathing dragon out there. One thing, folks, you got to realize, Kirby Smart's talked about this a lot lately, about how this is so young, so many guys in the 2 deep. I want you guys to get used to seeing Georgia playing low B football in September and early October. And then when it gets to playoff time, when it gets to the money games in November and December, this team is going to be ready. It's going to be coached up. Again, one of the things about Schumann, you saw him, and how incredible has his reputation changed. Or Mike Bobo, how he was just dotting Alabama up early on. You tell me with that fullback throwing a ball to Roderick Robinson with Josh McCurry was back there, and they're like, okay, which one of these guys is getting the ball? And they feed it to the fullback for the first touchdown.
That's beautiful to see. We'll hear from Kirby Smart in 1 second. Let me get one more before we get there, and then plenty more phone calls after that, because he's calling in tonight from enemy territory. We've talked to him before, and one of the things I know from all the years of talking to Georgia fans, if you live at the place where you're surrounded by the other folks, you better believe wins like this mean the world to you. So Josh joins us tonight from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or as we're going to call it tonight, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, because they are losers tonight. Georgia's the SEC champion. Josh, what about it?
Let's go, BA. Now, the one thing I can do is I can rest. And I can tell you, in Tuscaloosa, the tide has turned. And it's turned for the Dogs, baby. Go Dogs from Tuscaloosa. Man, listen, the one attribute that I think we have as a fan base and as a team in a program is mental toughness. All the years of hearing people talk about you can't get over Bama, you can't get over Saban, you can't win against Debor. Well, how about them Dogs tonight, baby? Mental toughness, resiliency is what won us the game tonight. And I am going to wear my shirt proud through the streets of Tuscaloosa. Go Dogs.
I love it, Josh. I know it means the world to you. And for everybody who's living over in Alabama or anywhere on that I-20 corridor near Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, that area, I know how much it means, and I'm so happy for you. And I tell you, we've been watching the celebration ongoing and starting to taper off now. All we got now are these big giant machines taking all the paint off the field from the SEC championship. But we've had it in the crowd over here. We've had folks on the phones, Rodrigo Blankenship, Jeff Sentell now. What a fun experience it is. More of that coming, by the way. 678-645-DAWG. That's the number. 678-645-DAWG. Also, click the link. You can join us via the chat. We're going to take phone calls until they kick us out here tonight. Also, let's hear from Kirby Smart, his initial thoughts on what it feels like for a second straight year and for the fourth time in his Georgia career to be on top as the SEC champs. Here is Kirby Smart.
Yeah, I'll start with thanking the SEC and the leadership in this conference. They do an incredible job with this event. It's so well run. Both fan bases passionate. I mean, it's one of the greatest championship games you can play in for a great conference. So I have respect for that. Our administration, Josh Brooks, Jerry Moorhead, do an incredible job supporting these players and helping them out. And then all the credit goes to the players who have had a very long, tough, hard season, and the kids in our program buy into hard, and I appreciate their toughness and the way they do things, and that pays off in the long run. And to win back-to-back SEC championships, it's I know every kid in this footprint's dream, and an honor to be at Georgia and be able to be the head coach here and win games like this.
An honor indeed to be able to win games like that. And when you hear Kirby talk too about what an SEC championship means to him and his players, Jeff, I felt like this game tonight felt big time. I was asking some folks prior to it, a year ago, and Kirby even mentioned this time a year ago, is that the stands were, I don't want to say completely empty, but they weren't as full for pregame warm-ups as they normally are. And in my mind, I'm like, is this really the beginning of the end? Is this the SEC championship that's starting to have the natural erosion as the college football playoff starts to suck everything into its orbit? But tonight, I felt like the game was back. And I know it's easy to say that because Georgia won, but I really felt like during the game, first of all, the atmosphere for this was 10 times better than it was a week ago, which I thought was pretty stale, pretty antiseptic, and very corporate. There's a lot of corporate involvement in the SEC championship, too, corporate partners that we also love very much as well in some cases. But but I did not feel like the atmosphere here was corporate at all. I felt like this was a stadium full of fans. I thought the Georgia people were making noise. But you know what? Give them credit. Alabama folks showed up for this game, too. This felt like a big-time football game. So for all those who wonder, what's the future of conference championship games, I'd say tonight this is it still felt as big as it could.
Brandon, I want to ask you a question, and I got a make after the question. Do you think perhaps Mercedes-Benz Stadium set a new record for adult beverage sales in the third quarter when Georgia was just frothing at the mouth? And I saw people coming down double-fisted with everything. That's one topic. The second one is this, Brandon. You were making a point about the SEC championship game comparisons, right? I thought last year's SEC game, even though it was the first of back-to-back SEC titles, what it did is it took something out of Georgia. Georgia lost their quarterback. Georgia lost momentum. Georgia perhaps lost their best chance to win a national championship. I feel like this game, Brandon, has elevated Georgia. It has trampolined Georgia into the conversation among the best teams in the country, to a 2 seed likely going to New Orleans. And this team, Brandon, right now, I think it's playing as well as anyone in the country, and that's a totally different feeling than a year ago.
Let's get Randy in Tifton. Randy, how about them Dogs? I love it when you call in because I know you're about to cut a promo. So, Randy, let us have it. Tell us what you think. How about them Dogs? SEC champions once again.
I tell you what, B.A., before I talk about the game, this is Herschel Walker right here. And guess what? This is Roll Tide right here. He's off my back now. And I'm going to tell you what.
I love it.
Everything, B.A., tonight, we don't have puppies no more. We have full-grown dogs. We don't have puppies. And I'm telling you, Walker, the freshman's going to be a superstar for Georgia next year. And Branch, I don't care what you got to give him. Don't let him go to NFL. Keep him in Athens. And you know what? This monkey is off my back. Go Dogs. And I'm tired of all the Alabama fans talking their crap because they can't talk it no more. They just lost by 21 points to the SEC champs, and we're going to win it all. Go Dogs, B.A. and Jeff.
Go Dogs, Randy. So great to hear. Jeff, Georgia fans are having themselves a good time tonight. Randy, great phone call. I appreciate that. And by the way, if you want to do what Randy did, we'll give you a chance to. 678-645-DOG. That's 678-645-DOG. You can also click the link and join us there, too. Georgia fans are certainly enjoying this. How much did you enjoy that Georgia defense?
So one of the things we got to shout out, really, we're trying to hit all the roll call here, Brandon. Beginning of the game, no Janelle Aguero. It looked like he had a wasp nest around his hand. Looks like he might have suffered an injury in practice or perhaps the Georgia Tech game.
Sean Dinkins getting the start tonight.
Took the start and took a lot of big reps, took up a lot of big assignments there as well. I mean, really, Brandon, if we want to talk realities here, Georgia gave them 30 yards in penalties on that one drive. Otherwise, this thing would be a shutout. You know, when you watch these games, Brandon, you look for the ebb and flows of everything. I never really thought Alabama had anything going offensively tonight. That one drive was not only coached out through 30 yards in penalties, but there was also a tip ball that someone pulled off the carpet and got a first down out of as well, Brandon. And then Georgia, again, they wanted to hunt Ty Simpson, and when they didn't get home, he found the little pop pass to his back, and then they missed 2 tackles. Dalen missed one. KJ went one. Otherwise, we were looking at a shutout, man.
More phone calls coming up. Speaking of that shutout, almost anyway, shutout through 3 quarters, which had never happened before in SEC championship game history. Obviously a great day for the Georgia defense. After the game, Kirby Smart talked about what he liked about his defense.
Well, it was a huge difference. It was the domination on that side of the ball, and a lot of it came with a chip on their shoulder from the last one, and it came on a chip on their shoulder from improving. We told them after that game that there wasn't a lack of execution in that game at home. They outplayed us, they out-executed us, they probably outcoached us, and we weren't going to let that happen again in terms of the way we played with physicality. They're getting better. Young kids are growing up. There's a lot of naysayers out there for Schumann and his staff, and they never flinched.
Glenn Schumann and his staff never flinched. Strong words from Kirby Smart. Let's get Jason in Gainesville. Jason, next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Jason, how about them Dogs, SEC champions here tonight? What'd you think?
How about it, B.A.? I'm telling you what, we broke the dam tonight over here at Lake Lanier, let all of that ice-cold water flow to Tuscaloosa. Never even had a chance. The offense didn't get off the bus. Never got off the bus. So great to see that defense show up. What a difference when C.J. Allen is on that field. Once again, SEC champs proving that the road to the title must go through Athens. Go Dogs, go Dogs.
Go Dogs, Jason. Great phone call. And you're right, that SEC. We heard before the season that the road to the SEC ran through Austin, Texas. Yeah. I didn't see Texas here tonight. Nowhere to be found. To me, as Jason said, that road still runs through Athens, Georgia, and in Atlanta, Georgia. You can't have an SEC championship without UGA. Certainly not for the last 5 years.
Brandon, I'm going to make you choke on this stat. This is so satisfying. You ready for this one? This is courtesy of Cole Kublik. Brandon, there have only been 2 instances ever where Alabama has been held to negative rushing yards ever. Tonight, -3 yards, and the 1968 Gator Bowl, when Missouri, apparently they played some good football back then. Either that or Alabama's line was as leaky as a sieve. -45 rushing yards in that game. Tonight was one of only 2 times Bama has ever been on the negative side on the rushing total.
Okay, so if you're on hold, stay where you are. We're going to run through as many as we can. We're going to keep them going lightning fast and rapid fire. I do have to thank a couple of sponsors, so give me 60 seconds to do that. It's 1 minute. We're right back to it. If you're on hold, stay there. If you want to join us, hop on. 678-645-DAWG. DAWG. 678-645-DAWG. Click the link in the chat. Join us there, too. We're talking about Georgia beating Alabama 28-7. Hop on. We're happy to have you here. 60 seconds from right now. We're right back to it.
I get it. We all want to do our research online before buying anything. But if you're in the market for a hot tub, trust me, you'll be glad you came into Georgia Spa Company to see their inventory in person. You just got to get your hands on them, see them, envision which model will fit your home and your lifestyle best. Talk to one of our consultants who, I promise you, will bring up considerations you never thought to consider. I'd also recommend taking a test soak. So come on into Georgia Spa Company. I promise you'll be glad you did.
Big games deserve big meals, so let Cercheros make it happen. It's friendly Tex-Mex, served fresh every day. Cercheros Catering can handle the crowd, so it's perfect for your tailgate or watch party. Order online, pickup, or delivery. Cercheros is Georgia grown with over 30 locations throughout the state, bringing you fresh Mex, bowls, burritos, tacos, and more, with over 25 fresh toppings, customizable, just the way you like it. So find a location near you at Cercheros.com. That's Cercheros.com.
If you're thirsting for It's Only Tuesday, that meeting should have been an email, and really need something to go your way level of refreshment, we definitely have that. When you're feeling the heat, Circle K makes your day.
This is DawgNation Postgame, brought to you by Cercheros, Georgia Spa Company, Circle K, and the UGA Bookstore.
Welcome back, everybody. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia. 28-7. Georgia is the SEC champions for the 2nd straight year. This time getting a very cathartic win over the Alabama Crimson Tide. Happy to have Jeff Sentell. I'm Brandon Adams. Rodrigo Blankenship a little earlier. Everybody weighing in tonight. You're invited to do the same thing. So give us a call, 678-645-DAWG. That's 678-645-DAWG. Click the link in the chat. You can join us that way, too. Let's keep it going here right now. Tim's in Ohio. Tim, you're next up tonight on the DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show. Tim, SEC champion. Sounds pretty good to say that about Georgia once again, does it not?
Yes, it does, BA. It absolutely does. Go Dogs. Appreciate what you got going on there. Appreciate the podcast. Love it, man. Hey, I got to say, we went crazy here, and I think my Ohio neighbors heard it, and I hope they heard it very loud because I was so proud of what I saw on TV. And I got to tell you, the defense did phenomenal. But it's how the offense capitalized off of those places. We've seen this time again where they don't. Not in recent history, but, we've been in that song and dance before. So to watch the offense do what they did was fantastic. Shout out to Nate Frazier. That dude played a grueling game. He got hit. And for him to get back up and then deliver on that touchdown was amazing. Love it, BA. Love what you got going on. Go Dogs. But some thoughts on how the offense just ran it home. Maybe a thought on Chauncey Bowens, too, and how the backs might be doing as we kind of roll through the college football playoffs. Take care. Go Dogs.
Yeah, it's great. Great phone call. Totally agree with you about Nate Frazier. That touchdown he scores to put Georgia up 21-0, as Jeff and I were saying earlier, just given the angst that I had, 14 points didn't feel like enough. Felt like that was a chance that Alabama could still come back. But when Frazier found the end zone, really capitalizing on the Ja'Cory Thomas sack that ended that previous Alabama drive, that was the one that got over the hump for me. And this is really two games. Frazier tonight, a lot of Chauncey Bowens. The first time, even though obviously Georgia didn't win both these games, a common denominator for Georgia in those games, it has run the ball against Alabama very well in both games. Tonight, another example of that. Obviously, a lot of that came from Gunnar Stockton, too. Frazier got some good, tough, hard yards. That's one of the reasons why I think you like Georgia's chance of the postseason, because they do have the component of the running game. With all due respect, it did not have a year ago. Some of that may have been struggles with the offensive line. Some of that was, Trevor Etienne at times not being healthy. You can ascribe it however you want to. This was a team last year that struggled to run the ball, and you can trace almost every weird play call or frustrating moment. It all goes back to this team just couldn't run it last year. Well, they can run it right now, and as the caller just said, they ran it down Alabama's throats.
You know how they fixed it, Brandon. They couldn't stop the run either. Now they can do both at an elite level.
Which is exactly what Kirby said before the season. Kirby always so non-specific, but explicitly he stated those as his two preseason goals.
So you were talking about how you were a little knobby-kneed, a little nervous at that 14-point mark, Brandon. What was the point of this football game when you said, Georgia, Alabama, this one's going to be different? Was there a moment where you were like, your inner Munson was kind of calmed down a little bit?
Well, for me, it was very late in the game. It's when the punt got muffed and the return man fell on it inside the 5, and then Alabama's facing a 4th and 2, and mathematically, I guess Debor just felt like he had to go for it there, even though he did have 3 timeouts. When they didn't have a better 4th down play than that, and when that drive ended, okay, well, at that point in time, I really was of the belief that the comeback was not going to happen. But I'll tell you, when they scored to make it 21-7, I'm on pins and needles as much as I ever was. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't thinking the worst. I wasn't being super negative. I just was steadfast in my belief that this game at 21-7 was not over.
I thought there were a couple points, and this was kind of way early, but it was an attitude change for me, Brandon. What I mean by that is, when you go after the block punt, Kirby tries that in every big football game. And then also when you pull that rabbit out of your hat with Roderick Robinson, and then you add a Dylan Bell touchdown. And Brandon, they were struggling to get first downs. There was one point in the middle, the late fourth quarter, Brandon, late right before the fourth quarter, I believe they had 4 first downs in the whole game. Brings up another great topic. When I say 33-18, you're always going to remember that, right?
Sure, of course.
What do you think 28-7? Is that one of those that's going to lodge in your memory bank for all
time?
Well,
it probably will, and as Rodrigo Blankenship pointed out earlier, that's also the same score that Georgia beat Auburn by in the 2017 SEC championship game. This is the second time in Kirby Smart's history that Georgia's won an SEC championship game 28-7.
And it's a revenge game, too.
And in both cases, a revenge game from an opponent that same year.
Yeah, from the state of Alabama.
A lot of symmetry involved in all of that. All right, back to phones we go here. Blake's in Atlanta. Blake, you're next up. DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Blake, how about them Dogs? Glad to have you here. Tell us what you thought about another SEC championship for Georgia and a coveted win against Alabama.
Hey, Bill, go Dogs! Man, what a well-rounded game on all sides of the ball. Also, for one, I just want to say I appreciate what y'all do with DawgNation Daily. I listen to you every day. When I'm at the office, my coworkers are forced to kind of listen to you too because they can hear it from my office. And I know you've gone through a lot with your voice and all that kind of stuff, and I just appreciate you showing up to work every day and providing the news to DawgNation. But I'll be brief. I just want to leave you with one funny question that I thought about. If Kalen Debor gets fired tonight, are they going to hire Lane Kiffin? Appreciate it, guys. Go Dogs.
Great phone call. I think that's great. Obviously, we kind of wondered about Lane Kiffin dragging this thing out with LSU. A lot of people believe that Alabama's the one job he'd really like to have. Kalen Debor said last week, hey, he loves it at Alabama, doesn't want to go anywhere else. You wonder how mutual that feeling is for Crimson Tide fans and Debor right now, as Alabama missed the playoff a year ago, lost 3 games. For the second straight year, they've also lost 3 games. We'll find out tomorrow if it also misses the playoff once again.
What do you think? You think that was
I think they'll probably get in, but I do believe it's close. Look, the committee set it up the way that it did so it could choose all of its options on the table. Bama, Miami, Notre Dame, to a certain extent BYU, but probably not. All of those options are on the table. I do think it's close. I do think that there is an argument on both sides. I've said before, I think that Georgia ought to get something for winning the SEC championship. But to me, a great thing for Georgia to get is, hey, you don't have to worry about playing Alabama again this year. You beat them bad enough. You don't have to beat them again. I think that'd be a nice prize for winning the SEC championship, that you've eliminated this longtime foe from playoff consideration. I think that'd be a just reward for Georgia. Ultimately, though, I do believe Alabama is still going to get in.
This is not supposed to penalize them. You remember that, how they kept saying that? Now, we can roll our eyes on that one a lot, Brandon, about whether you play in conference championship play and you lose and you miss the playoffs. Meanwhile, Oklahoma, Texas per se, anybody else you want to throw out, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, those schools get rewarded when you play against a big-time opponent in a big-time game. I'm curious, Brandon. One thing came up on social media. I don't know if you noticed this. It's a good question. Miko Hardman, famous Miko Hardman, he said, Branch, number one, is so dang fast. He said, but I think I'm still faster.
Oh, that's fun.
What do you think about that, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see that race. Obviously, McColl's pretty fast, but out here in a football field, Zachariah Branch is a pretty tough one to catch.
And McColl's straight line faster, but I don't know if he's quicker than Zachariah.
So obviously one of the things was also successful for Georgia today, and has been all season long, leaning on some of these young folks, across the offensive line. Had Malachi Toliver into Juan Gaston and Dontrell Glover. Rashawn Deacon stepping up and starting at the star position tonight. Georgia has leaned on a lot of inexperienced players and has gotten a lot out of that. Kirby Smart talked about the way in which the youth for Georgia has just come up big all season long, and certainly again tonight. This was Kirby Smart from just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, probably about the level we expect. I mean, we wanted to speed it up early because we got some talented young guys coming along. We've really had these injuries at receiver have really set us back, and we've been forced into playing the young guys. And getting Talon back was huge. CJ's growing up. Landon Rolden's going to be a good player. Thomas Blackshear's going to be a good player. Tyler Williams. So we got this core group of young receivers I'm really excited about. And then Dink, and Dom. I mean, we got these young O-linemen, Elijah Griffin. I mean, so we got freshmen that I now think of as sophomores because they came in the spring. So they've literally been here a full year, but it feels like they're sophomores.
So one of the things that Kirby mentions there is Talon Taylor. And I'm telling you right now, in this end zone right over here, what retribution this would have been after obviously the drop that everybody remembers, and I know Talon himself remembers. He almost had himself a touchdown. It wasn't a deep throw this time, and it was a deflection on the part of Alabama, but Taylor was open. He was about to get that touchdown. And for me, I was going to be so happy for Talon in his first game back after his injury, and what a courageous return from injury from Talon. He's worked so hard to get back, able to play in the SEC championship tonight. He almost had himself a touchdown.
Folks, I'm not going to try to cut a promo, but I'm going to say listen to Jeff here on this one. What Talon Taylor does is he gets open. So everybody that was opining, welcome to your opinions. You're going to feel a little foolish in about a year or two when you talk about Talon Taylor and how he dropped that pass against Alabama. Also, Brent, I thought you were going to mention another one. When Alabama muffed that punt, you know who was right there, almost ready to scoop that up on the punt team as the gunner? That was Talon Taylor. That would have been another redeeming quality, wouldn't it?
That's really awesome to see. Let's go back to phones here, too. We got highlights coming up, too, by the way. We'll see the big moments from the game. NOLA Dog, though. And, by the way, NOLA, we are coming to you. As I said a little earlier, let's let bon temps roulette, because Georgia's coming back to New Orleans. I'm going to be covered in beignet sugar falling from the sky, Larry Munson style, beignet sugar all over my clothes. I am ready for it all. And NOLA, we're going to count on you to host us. So tell us what you thought about this SEC championship game here tonight.
I love it, BA. How about them? How about those dogs?
How about them?
Oh, back-to-back SEC champions. And look, it sure is sweet to get this one over Alabama. I am not taking this for granted. I can tell you that. We all know we are living in the best years of those dogs, and I'm relishing it, and that is for sure. I'm so proud of this young team, and we're looking forward to what they can achieve here in the near future. And I'm hoping to see all of DawgNation in the great city of New Orleans. And you're dang right, baby. I'll be hosting. We'll be there, fair and square. I can't wait to see all of DawgNation in New Orleans. Merry Christmas to all of DawgNation. And, of course, I've got to let my 4-year-old son, Luke, take it from here.
I know a dog.
Go Dogs. That's right.
Go Dogs, Luke. That's awesome. Great stuff. Nola, thanks for calling in. I certainly appreciate that. And, yeah, we're looking forward to that, and it's going to be a fun ride. Jeff, will also point out another note that a guy that we did not see today, Noah Thomas, wide receiver, I guess Kirby Smart has officially said back spasms for him. He did, I think, warm up, and then I guess maybe noticed some of that during that time. So that's a small injury update. At least I hope it's a minor injury. He's got a little bit of time to get that taken care of and rest up on that, but we did not see Noah Thomas tonight.
You know, the other one that I was trying to find on social media and find on our website, Chauncey Bowens, Brandon. You know, Chauncey Bowens looked like he had a hip or a back or something on that carry. I think that's one that DawgNation will monitor over the next month.
And we had a caller that actually mentioned Bowens a minute ago, and I didn't probably fully answer that question the best that I could. So think about where Chauncey was a few weeks ago when he was really Georgia's dominant running back. I think most people were saying, that's your best running back. That's the guy you got to have in there. But, you know, Kirby says last week, you know, well, he was healthy, he could have played. You never really know with Kirby if that's, you know, if that's the full story or if that's just a measure of gamesmanship. But it is interesting that the Georgia offense, I think, has an extra component to it when someone like Bowens is fully healthy. And perhaps, and you have a better perspective on this because you're watching from the sideline, perhaps still that's not the case with Bowens because we're certainly not seeing him getting very many carries right now. That's the best judge we have on that.
Yeah, and one of those things about Bowens is he looked like he got a carry late in the game, and it looked like that's when he had the issue with his lower back. Now, I do believe, Brandon, you can correct me on that. Everybody else correct me on it. Noah Thomas did try to go in this game, and he did get some snaps, but he was replaced by C.J. Wiley in the middle of the game because he simply couldn't go.
By the way, we were talking earlier about Alabama's playoff fate now that Georgia has just walloped it and dragged it up and down the field here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. A moment ago, Kalen Debor, Alabama coach, made his plea for why he thinks his Crimson Tide team is still deserving of a spot in the playoff, even though it got its teeth kicked in at the hands of Georgia tonight. This is what Kalen Debor had to say.
What? Throughout the season, but if you're really looking at this game, I mean, it was a 14-point game with 7.5 minutes to go, and we had the ball. I mean, you know, there you can look at things that didn't go well. We gave them 4 short fields. And again, I don't want to take anything away from what Georgia did, right? The field position battle is part of it. But gave them 4 short fields. I mean, that's a testament to our defense being resilient. And, you know, one of those touchdowns, I mean, if we're really worried about the score, then probably punt it on your own 11, right? But I'm here to win an SEC championship. I'm not here to, if you lose by 1 or you lose by more, it's still a loss. And that's what I was caring about. We're here to win an SEC championship. We can't get worried about how much did we lose by or that was what it was about. And we're here to win. That's how we play. And again, it was a 14-point game. We have the ball with 7.5 minutes to go, you know, against a really good team that knows us well and we know them well. You know, I thought our defense did a heck of a job going against them. You know, one thing we didn't really do was take the ball off them, you know, and the one turnover they got helps up, and again, a short field. So again, that's football. But, you know, that's the way I looked at this game. And if this game applies to and takes away from our resume, I don't think that's right. I really don't. I think the precedent's been set, and I don't know how you can go into a conference playoff game when you're the number 1 seed and did all these things throughout the year and, you know, playing in this game against one of the top teams in the country as well, how that can hurt you and keep you out of the playoff when, again, we've done what we've done all year.
So Kalen Debor obviously selling the margin of victory, saying that maybe the game in his mind was closer than the final margin of victory. And the truth is, I don't want to spend that much time on this because I think this is, you know, frankly, you know, loser talk for why the loser ought to get some credit for how they played. But if people are going to ding Alabama for this, it's not going to be the final margin of victory or the fact that they, you know, got stopped in the 4th down, you know, deep in their own end zone and, you know, set up Georgia for an easy score. It's going to be the fact that the Georgia defense was just unyielding tonight, that Alabama couldn't get anything offensively. So for people who want to argue against Alabama's inclusion into the college football playoff, they're not going to point to the final margin of victory. They're going to point to the stat sheet. Negative yards rushing. You know, after getting everything it wanted to get on 3rd down in the September game, Alabama gets really no 3rd down conversions tonight. That's what people are going to point to.
I mean, Brandon, you remember the first one? It was 13 out of in the first half. It was 13 out of 14, 13 of 19 for the game, 86%. And then it was basically suffocation this time, which led to some jubilation. I mean, you guys can't wait to see all the video of the celebrations and stuff like that, Brandon. You've got Andrew Smart basically scooping up that confetti. I know you're a confetti guy, and just pouring it on players, throwing it on players.
We're seeing that video right here, right now.
And, it's great. And then also you saw Oscar Delp talking a little trash. Not trash, but getting his Ric Flair on a little bit.
I'll tell you what Oscar does. Oscar is very well-placed trash talk. Oscar has a very he kind of gets his zinger in there, right? He kind of comes with the uppercut when you least expect it sometime. He'll get his shots in there, but he doesn't really come from a long way away. He kind of sneaks them in on you.
So he got a good one today. He was walking off, and the cameras caught him. And he was like, I played in this game 4 times. I've been in college 4 years. I played in this game 3 times. I've got 3 rings. He's like, I'm running out of fingers. You love that for Oscar Delp.
Good for Oscar Delp. No, that's awesome to see. We got highlights coming up. We may hear a little bit more from Kirby Smart here too, including he's been asked many times about what the losses to Alabama have meant to him. Before we're done tonight, we'll hear Kirby Smart talking about what this win against Alabama meant to him. I know you'll love to hear that. But for now, let's keep the conversation going. Let's get Sam in Columbus. Sam, you're next up on our DawgNation postgame call-in show. Sam, thanks for joining us. How about them Dogs, and how about this SEC championship?
How about them Dogs, fellas? Thank you so much for having me. I love listening to y'all on the postgame show. Y'all do an amazing job.
Thank you.
Heard a little bit pregame, and
thank you.
Y'all talking about the importance of the tight ends this game, and just a quick shout-out to our receivers. I felt like last year, they got a lot of flack really from everybody else, and this year, blocking downfield has been excellent, the ability to move the ball, and then secondly, I hear a lot of teams say, the leadership on the team is what makes championship teams, not necessarily the coaches. And, C.J. Allen and Zachariah Branch, I can't say enough about him and his importance, and really just Kirby's ability to pick out talent in those guys. Zach Branch has just come in first year, made such a difference. Is there anything y'all can say about the leadership on our team among the players and them kind of holding each other to the standard? Thanks again. Go Dogs. Can't wait to be SEC champs until this time next year when we do it a three-peat.
I love it, and great phone call. And to your point about the leadership, I tell you what's interesting to me is, first of all, Zachariah Branch, one of the best receivers that Kirby Smart has had during his era. I'm going to put him right there with like a Ladd McConkey, George Pickens. That's the top trio for me of true receivers in the Smart era. Branch is such a good player, but he is such a culture fit for Georgia. And this is the thing. This team will swear by Colby Young. They think he's a great guy. Yeah. Zachariah is a great guy. They love Noah Thomas. And that's just to pick out the wide receiver transfers, that Georgia is pretty judicious with the transfers that it adds. They want to make sure it's guys that can help them in the field. But all of these guys too, Jeff, and Zachariah may be the best example of this of them all of these guys are such program, locker room. They just benefit the overall culture. And a lot of us have a little bit of a skeptical view sometimes of transfers, and is that what this team is supposed to be built on? We like homegrown Georgia talent and whatnot. But Zachariah Branch acts like he's been in Georgia's whole life, and and they're very good at bringing in those transfers that can not only help you on the field, but can also be leaders for this team too.
Folks, let me tell you a story, and that's one of those I knew when type stories. I'd seen Zachariah Branch a lot on the All-American circuit, on the 7-on-7 circuit. Electric, seemed to me like he was a Cali swag, cocky kid, right, Brandon? When I saw him in spring practice warming up for G-Day, you know what he did? He got out there early, and he was waiting in front of the tunnel, right? And he was glad-handing everybody that came through, freshmen, walk-ons, hugging them. And I thought to myself, goodness, a talented guy like that who has some Tyreek Hill in his game, that's the one that's already immersed in the Georgia culture, acting like the servant leader amongst all those guys. And he was like, somebody would make a play, he'd be all over him. He'd be talking to guys during warm-ups, guys that were competing for his reps. And I thought, oh my goodness, Georgia has found something in a bottle, because I knew he could play. I knew he could make plays in the SEC. But that other stuff, Brandon, that's just been gold.
Speaking of somebody making plays in the SEC, that's certainly what Malachi Toliver did today, stepping in place of Drew Bobo, the injured Bobo, getting the start at center, and everything I could tell, certainly seeming to come up and really do the job for Georgia today. Kirby Smart also threw some compliments his way after the game. This is what Kirby said about Malachi Toliver and the task that he faced as he stepped in the center role today. Here's Kirby on Malachi.
The biggest thing is get the snap there, right? That's 50% of the battle. Just get the snap there and get it accurate, and that was my concern. I knew he would play well, play hard, play physical. He did that, but you know, I think the way we practice and what he went through last year prepared him for this year. He was prepared for this game because of everything he's been through. That kid, he had an injury, an ankle injury, then he had he was out for another like 2-3 weeks with an injury. So, I mean, the kid's been through it. He stepped up tonight, played well in Drew's absence, and I'm proud for him.
Great stuff there from Kirby Smart. Back to the phones we go. A couple more minutes left here. Mark, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Mark, how about them Dogs? How about this great Georgia win? How about the confetti that's still in the air and on the ground and all around us here? What a great celebration for Georgia and what a tremendous win. What did you think about it, Mark?
Even Blankton, I love the visually, and you know what? We put up with Bama so much this year. I cannot believe we crushed them. It was like sugar falling out of the sky. We spit it out at their face, and it was a wonderful birthday gift for me because I turned 29 this week. So. Oh, and my Owls also won too.
Happy birthday. That's awesome. That's right. Kennesaw State, year one for a brand new coach. They won the Conference USA Championship. That's an amazing weekend for the Owls, an amazing weekend for you. Happy birthday. And, yeah, you better believe, as we've been saying, sugar falling out of the sky. A great call back to the 1982 Georgia-Auburn game and one of the legendary calls from Larry Munson. I couldn't help but think about that myself here tonight, because obviously we think the Sugar Bowl is the next up for these Georgia Bulldogs. And the other thing that Mark brings up there, Jeff, is, look, what we do is talk about sports, and sports fans go back and forth with each other. And honestly, like 99% of it is in good fun. Really, it is. You know, it's what sports fans like to do. SEC fans, they like to snipe back and forth at each other. But for a lot of these Georgia fans who make a sport out of arguing with their fellow fans from other SEC programs, they just have heard so much. They've been forced to take so much. Look, I'm happy that Georgia won this game, but for all of you, I am so happy for y'all, because this is just one of those things that Georgia fans, they try to be polite about it. They try not to belabor the point. They try to be positive, and I get all that. I try to do the same thing. They were tired of losing to Alabama, and now they're the SEC champs, and they ran Alabama out of the building. For these Georgia fans tonight, Jeff, I just think it's important to quantify and try to describe just how significant that moment was.
I feel it's either, Brandon, somewhere between cathartic and an exorcism of all that bad juju from all the years and all the 3-point losses, Brandon. You know, one of the things that's lost on folks in this rivalry, nobody brings up that 5 of these games between Bama and Georgia, 5 of those losses were one-score game. And now you've got a Georgia team that beats Alabama so resoundingly. I think, Brandon, this has got to be the number 2 seed in this playoffs, if not.
That's a great point. I think that Georgia has done enough tonight, regardless of what happens with the Big Ten title game. Georgia deserves that number 2 seed. Now, there isn't a tremendous degree of difference between the 2 seed and the 3 seed, but I do think you get something for winning this game and being vaulted into the 2 spot. I do think that's quite appropriate. I agree with you on that. By the way, before we're done tonight, we're going to hear Kirby Smart. Very, very passionate statement about his thoughts on beating Alabama. We'll give that to you in a minute. Let's get Curtius, though. You're next up. Curtius, we love you in our YouTube chat. We see you in there. And now we're happy to have you as part of our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Curtius, thanks for being here. And how about them Dogs?
Hey, how about them, BA? Greetings to both you and Jeff. Appreciate what you guys do. Love the show. First things first, that's a sigh of relief. Beating this team, they've been a thorn in our side for some years, and I'm so proud of this team. I'll just say this: perfection should never be the expectation, especially in August and September. But what matters most is that week-by-week improvement that Kirby harps on in every press conference and winning in the margins. There are so many moments throughout this season that we can call back to. That fourth down throw by Gunner against Tennessee, the punch out against Auburn, the whole fourth quarter against Ole Miss. This team is built for this moment, these moments, and this team is built for the playoffs. I absolutely love this team. I love this coaching staff. I called in earlier in the season and mentioned that within the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to get at least one, maybe two natties. I stand by that even more so now after seeing what these young guys put on tape. So many game balls to give out, whether it's Ellis Robinson becoming a true lockdown corner. How about Gabe Harris just being an absolute monster in the trenches? Our linebackers are going to do what they do. Ja'Cory Thomas had a great game today. This defense is going to travel and keep us in games. And we didn't even really do much as far with respect to deep passes down the field. So I still think we've got a lot more tools in our box when it comes to these playoff matchups. So I'm excited. Again, I love this team. I can't wait to see what happens in late December and January. And as always, go Dogs. Hey, and let's go get one.
Curtis, I love it. Yeah, let's go get one. Let's just keep it going from here. I think that's great. Jeff, I'm also glad he brings up Ja'Cory Thomas. We're actually going to make Ja'Cory Thomas our Serve Pro game ball recipient tonight. His first career sack. I love Georgia sending guys from the secondary in on pass pressure. Reminds me of Javon Bullard against Tennessee in 2022. Yes, Eric Stokes, the cornerback against Tennessee in 2019. Georgia's really beaten up on Tennessee a lot over the years. But the Thomas sack ends that Alabama drive. Georgia gets the Nate Frazier touchdown. After that, that's when you go up 21-0. At one point in time, he was also the leading tackler. I don't know if he finished that way, but the last time I looked at the stat sheet, he was the leading tackler. He had big stops that prevented Alabama third downs. Ja'Cory Thomas, to my eyes, played himself a whale of a football game.
So obviously, the network gave Gunnar Stockton the MVP, correct? Is that what Gunnar Stockton got the game ball or the MVP?
Well, the Serve Pro game ball is going to Ja'Cory Thomas.
Gotcha. That's another guy that you sit there and, Ja'Cory Thomas, Zion Branch. Remember, we've seen a lot of Zion Branch lately. He was banged up. One of the things that Kirby Smart said in the post-game press conference, he said, this team is very, very wounded. And that's one of those things where they need this time. They won't play again until January the 1st now, Brandon. They need this time to get well. We've mentioned Chauncey Bowens, Noah Thomas, Jonell Aguero, even Cortez Smith, Brandon. That was a subplot before the game. He looks like he's dealing with a foot injury. Doesn't look like he's totally healthy. And so you got a lot of dogs that can now benefit from this rest. And I'll let you talk show pros worry about whether that's too long a layoff like we experienced last year.
We said this on Friday. There is no perfect path. You cannot prepare a perfect path for Georgia. All you've got to do is make sure Georgia is prepared for whatever path it has. That it's not who you play and when you play them, it's how you play. And for me, how it played tonight, this is a Georgia team that can be ready for anything now.
I feel like, these games are supposed to teach and build, Brandon. And, the heartache, how tough it was against Tennessee and then how tough it was against Auburn. You always thought Georgia was building something with all these games, man. And it looks like you see one guy getting reps. You see another guy getting reps. You saw how DeMello grew, even though this wasn't his best game. You saw how Ellis Robinson really grew. Lots of players. Dontrell Glover, Brandon. Dontrell and Juan Gaston are so much better than the guys that started that first meeting with Alabama. It is uncanny how much better they are right now.
All right, so we're going to hear from Kirby Smart again. We're going to see some highlights. Let's also rapid fire here, run through a handful of phone calls. We'll make these our final phone calls of the night. Brandon's in Tennessee. You're next up. DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show. Brandon, how about them Dogs? And how about this Georgia 28-7 win against Alabama?
Absolutely unbelievable, B.A. Jeff. So awesome to be on the show. As a man that shed a few tears on that Keely Ringo pick six back in 22, I got to say that this win actually feels so much more satisfying. And if you really want to look at it, and we know that the defense was the absolute star of the show, but I'm so happy that you cut it over to Kirby talking about Toliver tonight. Drew Bobo being absolutely one of the top 3 centers in the nation going down, you got to be nervous. Even David Pollock, my favorite UGA player of all time, but he hops in on his podcast and he's like, we're in trouble. Well, you know what? Malachi Toliver stepped up tonight. Absolutely played out of his mind for his situation. So excited. I'm so happy for that kid. Anybody that's ever played that position, you know how important the center position is, from snap to setting up the center or the center of the field right in front of the quarterback. Such an amazing play from that kid. I'm so happy for that kid. I'm so happy for this team. Absolutely go Dogs, SEC champions. Thanks, guys.
Great phone call, and I love everything you said there about Malachi Toliver. And listen, you mentioned what David Pollock said on his podcast. Jeff, I had a chance. There were all kinds of former players in this field prior to the game, and a lot of them were saying the same thing, that they didn't necessarily think it was going to be a thing that kept Georgia from winning, but they were very concerned about the Malachi. They weren't concerned about Malachi. They were concerned about the Drew Bobo injury, that those were going to be big shoes to fill.
I heard it described to me, Brandon, and I think it was accurate in terms of tonight with the game plan, with what they had to do against Alabama. It was like Malachi or die. They were going to live and die with Malachi Toliver, and they definitely lived. They not only lived, Brandon, they thrived with Malachi tonight.
That's exactly right. Russell's in Jessup. You're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Russell, how about them Dogs, and what'd you think about this one here tonight?
How about them Dogs, man? I'm just so pumped to see our Georgia Bulldogs come back. I mean, 2012, 2018, 2021, we lost these SEC championship games against Alabama, and the redemption is so awesome today. What a great day for the Dogs. What a great day for Georgia. And, I mean, just to get over this hill that we've been climbing against for so long and beat Alabama in this SEC championship and see these young men come up and just grow and get better week after week, work hard. Just so proud of these young men and what they've done. And one more thing, I work with
I think that's
guy.
Please.
Go ahead.
Sir, please. Are you there?
Just saying, yeah. I work with a guy that is an Alabama maniac. And he has memorized every word Nick Saban has ever said as a coach of Alabama. And for him ragging me for all these years and just to get back to work Monday and give him a little bit back, it's going to feel good. Redemption is sweet.
Yes, sir. And I think redemption is the right word for it. And there are a lot of folks just like you working with folks. They've heard it from those Alabama fans for years. And, look, we've said this, Jeff, that Georgia has been the better program. Georgia has won 2 national championships since Alabama won its last. That was a pandemic year. Everybody knows that doesn't count. That Georgia has been the better program. But Alabama had been a nuisance that had obviously prevented Georgia from a lot of winning streaks, a lot of glory, prevented them from that. And so, once again, it comes back to this. There are a lot of Georgia fans who were just so irritated by the fact that Alabama had just been there poking at you, all the time poking at you. Well, guess what? For now, you don't have to worry about that. At least for a while, you don't have to worry about that.
Wicked Witch is dead. What do you think, Brandon? I think so. You like that one? And I mean, again,
with, what's that one called? Wicked, about to be on a box office.
I know you're a connoisseur of all cinema, Brandon, especially ones that you can watch maybe with your family. I don't know if there's a really way to describe this better, Brandon, but I just feel like, you remember, we're about the same time span of fans. You remember when Steve Young finally won a Super Bowl, and like it was when they beat the San Diego Chargers, and he was like tapping his back.
That's right. When they beat the Chargers when they were still in San Diego.
And it was like, can somebody get this monkey off my back? Can somebody get this monkey off my back? I don't know if it's a monkey. Maybe it's been an elephant.
Yeah, because it's not the first time that Georgia's beaten Alabama, but it's in this. It's a weirder thing, right? Because it's in this building.
I heard it's described really well this week, and Alabama was the dynasty and the standard. Georgia snapped that dynasty with the back-to-back. Then who kept Georgia from becoming its own dynasty? That was Alabama. Yeah. Some heartbreaking games against Alabama. All of a sudden, you've got Georgia now surging in the opposite direction now. we're about to go into this playoff, Brandon. And again, I challenge anyone. We got people texting me about the Ohio State Indiana game, Brandon, and they're wondering, can either of these teams really beat Georgia the way they play today?
Fair enough. All right, let's make our final caller here. Adam in New Jersey. Now, before we're done, we'll hear from Kaylee one more time from Kirby Smart. And our battery's about to die, so we're going to try to squeeze in some comments. We have gone very long tonight, and we have kept our staff very long here, too. So let me get Adam in New Jersey as our final caller tonight. Adam, tell us what you thought up there in the Northeast, where I'm sure it's pretty cold down here. I'm sure it's cold up there, but you're feeling nice and warm and toasty because Georgia got itself a win. Did it snow?
Yeah, Georgia got itself a win. I'm very happy about that. But, I mean, shout out to Kirby. Shout out to all the guys. I mean, I'm on the phone with the show. Sorry, that's my little brother. But my point is that Kirby was amazing. He coached those guys amazingly well. I'm incredibly proud of them. I'm a very passionate Georgia fan. Like, when my dad tells me, no, watch this game, it's a beatdown for Georgia, they're going to win, I'm like, no, I want to watch Georgia. And it's just so amazing for them to finally win against Alabama. And remember, in the September game, in my opinion, I think Ty Simpson was short at the end of that game. And I think that because of that Ellis Robinson 15-yard penalty, unnecessary roughness, it turned over. Had that not happened, I think we would have won that game. But still, just amazing football by Georgia, and I'm very proud of them. I mean, give props to Kirby where it's due.
Just an unbelievable kid. I mean, he sacrificed so much for this program. I mean, it gets me emotional thinking about it because, we had a team meeting on Friday, and we spoke to the team, and I spoke to the team, and Drew Brannon picked 5 players, and it was a very moving talk. And he had coaches come down and talk about the 5 seniors. He had Micah Morris. He had Dalen Everett talked about by his coach. So Dante came and talked about him. Dylan Bell and Cole Spear, Coach Coley came down and talked about him. And then Oscar Delp was actually the 4th, so it was 4 players. And he put on the screen how many days they had been at Georgia. And he put on the screen how many days potentially they had left. And it was like they have 1%. I mean, I think they had been there 1,200 days at Georgia because they're all 4th and 5th year players. And basically, Coach Coley talked about Cole Spear's sacrifices. He got to be a really competitive receiver in the spring. He was playing really good, and then he got an injury in the spring game. And it set him back, and he never flinched. He never complains. He just does what he's asked to do. He's extremely fast and physical. And think about those players that Drew talked about and had their coaches come talk about. Dylan Bell scores touchdown tonight, huge in the game. Dalen Everett gets interception, huge in the game. And then Cole Spear blocks the punt. And Oscar played well also. And, before he finished, he said, stand up if you've beaten Alabama in a game.
I tell you what, great stuff there from Kirby Smart. And also we appreciate Adam, our caller. I told you we were about to run out of battery, and we did. So shout out to Kaylee Manziel who helped us change that out. I don't think we lost.
Pit crew.
Yeah, we had the NASCAR pit crew doing all that. So we're going to get ready to wrap up here in a little bit, but good call by Adam and a great job by the folks back there getting Kirby Smart on while we were doing that. There you go. The belt was out. So I heard that Jordan Hall had the belt, and Jeff showed me on social media. Christian Miller had the belt. Putting the belt to you-know-what here tonight. Jeff, before we get ready to do some final pleasantries here, give me your final thought. Georgia gets a very, very sweet win against Alabama, 28-7.
Now, we're going to sound like parents, Brandon. We're going to sound like veteran Georgia fans here. Georgia people that follow this program, veterans. Is all the valleys, is it worth this feeling right now?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Listen, of course it is. And look, here's the thing. Even with Alabama beating Georgia, look, we're Georgia fans. We still have a better life. I mean, we're still doing it better, enjoying more. I mean, I was enjoying Georgia football already, but to be able to get this one tonight, yeah, it does make it a little sweeter.
I just feel like this is one of those times when Georgia and all these players played the way that they came to Georgia to play. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to Oscar Delp. Oscar Delp has played in 4 SEC championship games. He's won 3. This is a moment, and it's funny, you'll see this on social media, Brandon, but I don't know if you saw this yet, but Georgia's stationed like a camera right there in the corner of the tunnel, And when all the players came in from the festivities, they called it a win cam, which is they pointed in there and they all did that. Believe me, there were some more belts out there as well.
I love that. That's become the thing this year in many ways. Jeff, thank you so much to you. Let me also say this, that Kirby Smart a little earlier had his chance to talk about for him what this win against Alabama means. Let's hear that. We'll hear from Kaylee Manziel, and we'll show you some highlights. Then after that, we will get out of here and let everybody go home, and we'll keep the celebration going off camera at that point. Here is Kirby Smart on getting this very special SEC championship win against Alabama. This is what Kirby said. Okay, so we will get that for you a little bit later on. Let me bring in Kaylee Manziel here just for a moment. Kaylee Manziel, if you got time, pop on over here just for a second. Want to hear from you. Kaylee, obviously you and I were watching this together. You've been through a lot of these. You've watched Georgia go through this even before you even got into the media business. But this second straight SEC championship win against this team that the average Georgia fan probably wants to beat more so than any other, what was your perspective on it all tonight?
I mean, the mental block that the Georgia-Alabama rivalry has put on fans and even us alike is the fact that until it was 0-0, I was like, this game is not over. But to know that it went down like this, I don't think any of us expected that. I mean, Georgia just dominated every single quarter, all the bouts of momentum going their way. I was thinking back to the loss earlier this year, just the things that have changed, not just Georgia's defense, but their ability to capitalize on the big moments, because sometimes they would get a big turnover, a big stop, and it would amount to nothing. That wasn't the case tonight. Every opportunity that Georgia got, they seized, and I hope somebody out there bet on a Roderick Robinson touchdown tonight, because if you did, you need to call me.
Great stuff, Kaylee. And speaking of the Roderick Robinson touchdown and everything else, let's get ready to show some highlights here of how it goes down for Georgia in this SEC championship. And obviously, when you think about the first time that Georgia ever won an SEC championship here in the city of Atlanta, it was a block punt that got it started. And today, how about Cole Spear, one of those seniors we just heard Kirby Smart talking about a moment ago? He got the big play on special teams. That set up Georgia on the short field. And then, as Kaylee Manziel said, from that spot, that's when we were all surprised to see the man that got his number called. First catch of the season, and it was a big one. Roderick Robinson, the first touchdown of the game. Georgia capitalizing on the Alabama miscue, the block punt. Coming up big, Georgia was up 7-0. The Georgia defense was unbelievable today. Dalen Everett getting his interception. He was the MVP of the SEC championship a year ago, and part of that was because of interceptions, and then he also gets an interception right there, thwarting an Alabama drive. It would also set up Gunnar Stockton, who's going to throw it to the end zone. Dylan Bell is there. As Jeff said, maybe an act of retribution for Bell because of what happened in this game in 2023 against this opponent. But that is distant memories here now. More from the Georgia defense. Ja'Cory Thomas, our Serve Pro game ball recipient. First career sack. It was huge. Georgia had almost no pass rush in the first game against Alabama, but had plenty today. And that time a sack set up Nate Frazier, who finds the end zone. And Georgia in the early third quarter had a 21-0 lead. And that's where even the most pessimistic Georgia fan had to be thinking, yeah, maybe this is a chance this is going to happen. And then Ty Simpson just gave himself up before Quintavious Johnson was going to have a chance to sack him. But then Georgia would get its chance, and Johnson was in on that. Georgia relentless today, and Quintavious Johnson was big there. Gabe Harris also had pass rush here too. Xavier McLeod as well, getting after Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson. And then, how about Zachariah Branch after another Alabama miscue on special teams, dropping a punt, set up Georgia on the short field. Zachariah Branch gets the touchdown score. Georgia with a big lead there at that point. And then finally, Zayden Walker, the freshman, he got his turn to bring Simpson down to the ground, and it was that kind of night for Georgia. Christian Miller had the belt out. Georgia could have the championship belt, but it's also whipping him on that strap, putting belt to you-know-what. That's what Georgia was doing tonight, to the tune of 28-7 Georgia wins the SEC championship. Beautiful highlight shot by our guy, Cody Chafin. So as we wrap up here, long day of broadcast coverage, long post-game show, of course, very long post-game show. To everybody back in the studio, Jay Black and our DawgNation World Headquarters studio, and all the folks who are helping out here today, the people who help us out during the week, Danny and Tristan and Kamal and everybody, thank you so much back there. And Mackenzie here tonight, too, which is awesome. Certainly appreciate that. Thank you so much. To Kaylee Manziel, who's helping us here. Cody Chafin shooting a lot of the video. Jeff Sentell, Rodrigo Blankenship, who joins me. You know, for 13 out of the last 15 weeks, we've been able to talk some Georgia football with you. And we've seen Georgia go now 12-1 and winning a second straight SEC championship. What a privilege it is to be able to talk about this and do this with you each week. And how exciting is it? We get to wake up tomorrow, find out what the rest of the playoff field looks like, knowing Georgia's got very little to worry about on that. Its playoff status is secure. It's going to go to the Sugar Bowl, and it'll just sit back and wait to see who comes to it as Georgia tries to win national championship number 3 under Kirby Smart. This is a very special time to be a Georgia fan. This is an amazing, amazing season, and the best could still be yet to come. So we'll see you tomorrow on video. We will be here live. Not here. They're going to kick us out of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But we'll be back in our DawgNation World Headquarters studios. We will watch the playoff reveal live. We'll talk more about this game. It'll give us a chance to collect our thoughts, and we'll give you plenty on that, and it'll lead us into that playoff announcement as Georgia moves on to the college football playoff as the SEC champion after beating Alabama 28-7. Doesn't that sound good to say? Certainly sounds good coming out of my mouth to my ears. Have a great Saturday night. Enjoy this celebration. Life as a college football fan is rarely better than this. We'll talk to you very soon, including tomorrow, right here on the DawgNation video channels. Have a great night, everybody.